If women are the ones who set the pace of sexual encounters, then how can we get out of our heads and into our bodies for the most phenomenal experience available to us? The challenge lies in we tend to have to think so much. We have to analyze, rationalize, plan, manage, micromanage. We have to extend ourselves in all of these different directions because as women, we are responsible for making the world go around. And that requires being considerate of other people's feelings, considering our feelings, figuring out what our feelings are, figuring out what we need, figuring out what other people need, thinking for them, thinking for ourselves, and then doing something that leads to the actions that we desire. Because women can be crazy makers because there's so much in their mind and they feel responsible for the people around them. And so being in a headspace of that, from what I could characterize it easily, is kind of a dominant headspace where you're responsible for the well-being of others, responsible for the well-being of yourselves, and you're thinking of how you're impacting the people around you. So the challenge with that is that in some intimate encounters, if the woman is not in control or not able to get out of that headspace to just receive, it's going to create blockages where the encounter is not as fun as it could be. I'm Latia, and I'm a confidence coach who has a penchant for sexual attraction and sexy fun. And I have had experiences where I've been in my head and it's been hard for me to be fully present to the moment. And so I'm going to share some of the things that I personally do, and then just some things that I've heard of that sound like they could be very useful if you're a woman and you want to have fun and you want to get in the mood. And then possibly if you're a man and you know this woman and you really want her to be present, maybe some things to help you get her there. So sometimes when I start an encounter, it's like the first time. It's actually worse than the first time, because the first time I did it was not that crazy. It was just like, oh, okay, cool, lost virginity. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't actually very difficult. It was my time of the month. We were in college. We were in a dorm. He had a lot on his mind, and it was just like, oh, that happened. So whenever I have these encounters where it feels like, oh my gosh, I've never done this before, like what's going on? It's almost like I get tense and anxious, which I guess in a weird way translates to me being like kind of like tight and ready, and they're like, oh yeah, you're good. And I'm like, kind of. And so what I've learned within the last few months is that if I'm in that situation with a partner, I'll ask, how good does it feel to be in me? Like, how good is pussy? Like, whatever. And I ask these questions because whatever the answer is, it kind of like loosens me up and like makes me remember, oh yeah, like we've done this before. This is fun. It's easy. It feels good. And so for me, it makes me feel like, oh yeah, I remember this. I can do this. And what I would say that translates to on a bigger level, that may not be the question for every woman. The question might be, you know, what do you like about me? How do you feel about me? How beautiful am I? It's about praise, complimenting, and making a woman feel good and feel safe and feel seen. Because the more at ease that we are in the moment, the easier it is to let go and just be present. I know something for me personally, once again, so that question is a very great start. And then I also pay attention to angles. And so if it doesn't feel comfortable, I'll ask like, oh, could we adjust here? I'll move my hips and make sure that the angle of entry is like really good. And then sometimes in the middle of it, I just start thinking of random things that have nothing to do with the moment, nothing to do with feeling good. And so if it's a partner that I'm very comfortable with, sometimes they might grab my neck a little bit. Nothing like super crazy. Like someone did get kind of intense. It's like, oh wow, that's shocking. Like never had it like that before, but hey, I'm still alive, so we're good. But for me, what that does is when there's like a little pressure here, and it becomes a little more, it takes a little more concentration to breathe. It kind of it forces me to be present on my breath and just and it kind of like clears my head of other things, because as the effort to breathe increases, the amount of unnecessary thinking decreases. So it's kind of like a scale where it's like the less I have to think about, the easier it is for me to relax. And that I would like recommend, discuss it first, do it with someone you're comfortable with, and know that you can have them stop. And only if that is your jam. Like if it's not your jam, don't do it. Or don't do it until you feel comfortable, because you might find people who take your hard nose and kind of soften it. But always honor where you're at, honor your agreements, and make sure you're speaking throughout it, because you always have a chance to say no or let's change it. Woman always has power. And that brings me to kind of a side topic, which is sometimes in a dominant submissive relationship, I think, or relationships that have that tone but it's not expressly stated, I think sometimes when the woman is submissive, it's easy to think that you're a girl or a child or you're small and you don't have the power. But in that type of relationship, the sub always gives consent and permission. It is like you are topping from the bottom, but not really. It's just like you kind of create the framework within your working, and it's okay to own that power, because as long as you're comfortable and safe and powerful, because you don't have to be a small submissive, like you can be powerful and choose to submit to the will to another. And I just share that because it's something that's come up a few times, and I just want to clarify that in all relationships and encounters, everyone is a powerful, consenting adult. There's permission that must be given and agreements that are made so that everyone can feel safe to let go and fully experience the moment. And so other things that I like to do, I know sometimes I have guy friends who will like kind of ground me, usually in my lady bits, and they will either use their fingers and like play with my clit, or they will use their mouths, also playing with my clit. And then sometimes they might like stick a finger in my vagina and like pleasure me there. But sometimes like that foreplay and that grounding is really helpful. And lately I've been discovering that like kissing, I might like making out more than I thought. I had no idea, but kissing on the lips can be nice to start. If it's on the neck or shoulders, that can be really nice. It's about having fun and figuring out what works for you, because the more you know what brings you into the headspace of having fun, being open, relaxing, the easier it's going to be to enjoy yourself, because then you know the drill in a way, and instead of it being, I'm not ready for this, it's like, okay, let me do some hip circles, let me do some breathing, let me shake my body out, acknowledging like what's on your mind and what's holding you back, just giving yourself space to kind of transition into it, because it doesn't have to be a mad dash to orgasm. And with women having very different orgasm capabilities from men, it becomes an even more diverse, layered, complex, fun experience, because women have so many options and powers in the expression of their orgasm. It becomes something that's like a game. What worked yesterday may not work today, and that spot that was great might suck today. It's ever changing and ever evolving, where it might be that way for men, but for the most part it kind of seems like one trick pony. And so with women, there's an opportunity to learn finesse, to touch in a way that feels good, to change up the touch. Like there's like there's hitting, there's like caressing, there's like small ones, there's like big ones, there's like downward, upward, circles, whatever. It's a multifaceted adventure, and it can become a really big experience if both people are present in the moment, communicating and willing to explore what works, because the first thing may not work for you, but the next thing does it, and it can change from day to day. And I know that there are different love languages, and there are different expressions of our sensuality or erotic creatures or erotic blueprints. There's a lot of tools that can allow you to figure out what is it that turns me on and excites me. Because the more that you know about yourself, the more that you can bring into your partnership, and the more you can kind of play with both sides. So if I I always like to think of myself as like a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I like to think of it in the sense of like I'm a whole brain person. I did a test in high school and I got a 0 because I'm like completely balanced between the both sides of my brain. So I can be very logical or I can be very emotional and creative. I have all the options. And I like to be that option within any of the tests that I take. So it's like, if it's like, oh, you can be energetic or this or that, or shapeshifter where you can do anything. I'm like, that's me. I want that one. I want the power to use all the tools as I see fit in any given moment. But that doesn't mean that like I've taken the test and done it. So I've heard of different ones. Like I think Jaya maybe does erotic blueprints. But there's different places that you can look up where you can take quizzes to get a start. Like I know there's a BDSM test and you can see like what might fit me, and then you can start playing with people and exploring for yourself. Because just because it's a quiz doesn't mean it's accurate, and that there aren't things that you might not look good with on paper but are actually more attractive than you thought. So when it comes to having sex, women really just need to be at ease, present, and enjoying themselves. It's about the woman's pleasure, because as long as the woman's having fun, the man's also going to have fun, if you ask me, because the woman is the challenge. Like someone said, the woman is the bottleneck, and I kind of like that, because women have so much on their minds and that they're dealing with. It's like they're juggling 15 things, and it's like, and then sex, instead of it being like, let me like stop juggling and be fully present and fully receptive and fully open to this moment, so we can have some fun, create some magic, and really just enjoy ourselves in a way that we may not have been able to. Because I know for me, the most fun that I have is when I feel the most present, the most engaged, and like nothing else is going on except for this beautiful moment that we're having together. So I hope you found a nugget in this. I hope you, as a woman, that you find your pleasure and make sure that you get satisfied and caressed and grounded and ready for action in the way that you see fit. For men, I hope you're willing to be sensitive and nurturing and allowing the woman to have the space that she needs so that she can shine and be in her full radiance and power. Because if she's pleasured, you'll be pleasured too, I'm sure. I don't think it's that difficult. And for me personally, I'm just grateful and honored to share. I hope this is of value. I really want people to have fun in their sexual encounters and to know themselves so that they can know others and have wonderful, sexy experiences. See you next time.